week 10 of the Designorama. And this week will be, I think, fun for some of you and maybe challenging for others because this really is about going from zero to high fidelity prototype in 5 days. I think the thing to encourage here in yourself is to um, go find the key interactions in this particular prototype and prototype those and consider that by the end of this, even by the middle of it, you'll need something that someone can interact with. So I would say stick to fewer screens or really critical points of interaction that explore some of the untested or challenging things that you may be proposing instead of mapping out the entire application, because that could take a while. And this is partly about stretching your skills to get from nothing to concept, but this is also about stretching your skills and your ability to work quickly through building a comprehensive interaction in a prototype. So the fewer screens you have, the more likely it is you'll get to that high fidelity, sort of unbreakable prototype that someone can interact with. But if you try to build out the whole app, it could be very complicated very quickly, and you may start to hit the restrictions on your prototyping software, and then it just becomes a real technical exploration instead of maybe a design exploration. But in day one is just designing the low fidelity prototype. So pen and paper, sketch it out. And some of this is, this may be an opportunity to explore the bigger concept and all of the screens, all the page flows, how the user may go through it, that help you pick the area that is the critical, challenging thing that you want to build out in your prototype later. But, as with wireframes, just focus on basic layout, where content goes, maybe identify with annotations on the side where the primary actions are, but move fluidly, move iteratively, be prepared to sort of scrap designs or put them off to the side as you explore new ideas. Make a mess here, and then when you're done making your mess, or when it feels like you're in a good spot, then you can toss all of the things that maybe weren't serving you. As a bonus, you briefly describe your app's core values or purpose in a couple of sentences. So practice framing that. You can go into AI and type what you're thinking and then have it maybe rephrase it for you. But work on communicating the core of it, because you're going to need to do that as a designer. Day 2, add interactivity to your prototype. So if you're in pen and paper, move it into a prototyping tool. If you're in a prototyping tool, again, pick that one complex interaction or those two complex interactions, or if it's a relatively simple interactions, pick that one core flow and build it out. Connect the screens, make buttons, move from our click targets, touch targets, move from point A to point B, and make it a click-through prototype, but again, not a fully functioning app. In day 3, test your prototype with the user. And so this is basically usability testing, or even maybe a cognitive walkthrough. You could do either one of those. Both of these we've explored in the past. I wouldn't go through the trouble of writing a research plan, but I would sit back and think about those one or two key interactions, why someone might go through them, and then when you set them up in the test, set them up with that particular scenario. So it could be, maybe it is showing a balance in your checking account, or maybe it is a balance on your credit card, and you're developing a flow through an app that helps people see potential fraudulent charges, and they get a call or a text message from their bank, and they log in, and you're trying to develop a fast path for them to see what it is and then reconcile it quickly, in a way that is secure for the organization, also secure for the person. So maybe you've designed that and you wouldn't just stick the screen in front of them and say, hey, show me what your show me where the fraudulent charges are, you would most likely say, hey, listen, you got a call or a text message from a bank. You think not to respond to that, but log into your credit card directly. Show me how you would find the fraudulent charges. And maybe there's a login screen. They hit a login button, then the screen's presented in front of them. Yeah, but set them up in a realistic scenario, because the products we use are not used out of context. Day 4, iterate based on feedback. So based on those tests, which you see people doing, and even in that moment, if they do something strange or they do something quickly, you can ask them about that. You can say, hey, you very immediately went to this particular area and tried to tap on it. Can you say more about that? And have them explain why. But use all that to make an iteration on your designs. And then, if you'd like, you can run through multiple quick usability tests, as we described for that same scenario. You can modify your scenario based on how the person interacted with it. Maybe you learned something about how people think about fraudulent charges, and you could iterate on that. You may accidentally, or intentionally have a conversation with someone who works in that space and gain insights onto business rules or considerations, and you may incorporate that into your design. But just iterate on the feedback that you got, and then again, if you're so inclined, run through another iteration on the test. And then day 5, create the high fidelity prototype. So again, don't aim for perfection here, and I would say it would also be stressful if you tried to aim for high fidelity on the entire experience. So if in the first step you wireframed out the entire app and then you picked a core area, this is maybe not a moment to go back and high fidelity the entire app. Maybe you built this on components and you're creating a high fidelity version of those components, which automatically updates your app. That's fine. But I would focus on, just because of the constraints of these daily design changes, focus on making it pixel perfect, or not pixel perfect, but high fidelity for the interactions that you were testing. And you could even go back and test those again once they are high fidelity. But what you'll be doing in this moment is starting to make decisions for what high fidelity will look like across the app, but not necessarily implementing them, because it would just be really time consuming for this sort of challenge. So this is day 5. This is the end of it. At this point, you should have a really cool interaction that's been tested, concepted meaningfully, fits within a context, and is somewhat effective based on how much research and iterations you've done. And maybe a great item for your portfolio if you're a UI designer or want to demonstrate your ability to sort of do guerrilla research tactics. So best of luck with this week. I am excited to see what everyone produces.